Hello, friends. I got my stuff back from the state fair and I thought I would do a little show and tell and show what I entered and what won and how many ribbons I got. So first I'm going to start out with the things that did not place. And so I have a few things here. This one was made by my mom and I entered a couple of things for her of some of the clothes she's been making with some of my crochet. And she did win one. She entered two things. This one in a jacket or a little vest. And it won a first place, but this one did not place at all. But it's like a jumper skirt dress. And she was just really in the middle of still working on it when I snatched it up from her. But this is kind of the work that she's been doing. And she wears these things. So I said, oh, there's some of my trim. I said, Mom, let me enter that. Some of the little doilies, some little pieces that I've made. And so this is just something that she's been doing for herself. And I said, that's so cute. There's the little back pockets. My mom's a quilter. She didn't have a quilt at the moment that she could let me steal, but next year we will. So, and then there's the back pocket of the other. Isn't that cute? And the little buttons. She came and rated my buttons too. She's like, I like those buttons. So there was one thing that my mom entered that did not place, but it's still very pretty. And oh, there's another part of it. I don't even have the pattern for this anymore. So I gave her that and I said, oh man, but she liked it. It don't matter. And then here are a few of the other items. I had made this last year, just stuck a bunch of my junk on it. It's a can. It's got buttons, lace, trims I've made, mistakes I've made. It was not meant to be. It's junky can. But I entered it because it's interesting. You can see some of my little crochet pieces on there. And I just made that. There's a little bunny. So that did not place. That's okay. I entered two ornaments. They're very similar. This one did not place. This one just has a sticker. So the other one that did win, you'll see why. It had a little bit more detail, but it's just a little ornament just to show how simple you can make something with just a little sticker and some ribbon. And I used a wooden ring to make that, but it did not place. That's okay. That hangs up in Wee's room. That's hers all year. So I took that off her wall. Another thing that did not place is my little possum bookmark. There was a comment, and one of the comments about the bookmark was they felt like they loved it. They said it's cute, but they didn't care for the yarn I used. They felt like it was too thick for a bookmark, and therefore that's why. But that's okay because I'm going to be encouraged to make another one next year, and I will put a thinner yarn. I was just trying to use up some yarn, and this is just a funny pattern I'd found. Look at these little feet. And so I made a few of these. Well, I think three. So there was one for Wee, one for me, and we gave one away. So I'll make some more of those. And this little tongue's so cute. But it's supposed to be a mouse. Didn't really look like a mouse to me. We called it a possum, so we turned it into a possum. But that's why he didn't place. The yarn I used was too thick, the judge said. This is another one that didn't place, and I'm actually kind of surprised by this one. It's a skull. I made this last fall, and it's a magnet, and so I used a little, medallion I'd made there, and I added some lace and a googly eye and the skull and a button. I just decorated it, put some gems on there. Little thing, but they didn't like that. That's okay. I still think it looks super cute. So that's going back on my board. All right, now what did I win? I just have them in two piles here. So I'll start with one pile, and so they're not really in any kind of order that I'm just going to do. I just separate them. So I want third place for this dress. Here's my third place ribbon. And it had little shoes, and it's this little dress here. Actually, let me pull them out like this so I can put it down. Here we go. And I did, just this, I thought this purple ribbon was pretty, And it was kind of just ribbon in my stash. I've just been trying to use up some of the ribbon in my stash. So there is that dress. I'll show you the back. It's got a little vintage button there. I can see where, and I did notice there was a note that, and it probably was this one, I needed to weave in my ends. And I can see probably just from, I'd had a lot of this was already made up. So it had been sitting waiting. And I think because another complaint that I got was my block, it would be better if it was blocked better. And so what I'm going to do next year is I'll go ahead and prepare the item and block it. But then before the event, I'm going to block everything again. Because I think what happened is from sitting, it just kind of got comfortable again. And I'll go through a second, just overlook to make sure I didn't lose any ends. But I got that. And some of those could have come out more since it's been handled. And then, let's see. This one is a first place. And some of you may have seen some of these already as I've shared them. But this was a ring that I using up some yarn. And I made this cute little sunburst. And I have a few of these that are blanks that I make because I think they're pretty. And then I'll just sit down and decorate them. And I decorated this one with the two little owls, the love owls. So it's got my owls, a little heart, and the leaves. And then these are vintage buttons and trims that I just kind of stick in there. And I think that's very pretty. I love my little owls. So they must have too because they gave me a first place. First place is $25, second place is $20, and third place is $15. So if you're keeping score, there we go. And then, oh yeah, this one, I left this one on because they left me a note. They said, this is amazing, and was very close to the first place. Difficult decision. That's the only one that had a note. And so let me show you. I did get second place though, but they liked this one. So if you remember, this was some of the butterfly cards that I had made. So I submitted this one, and this one was a little bit fun and special. So let me show you what I did with it for this competition. So here it unties, and then the butterfly opens, the card opens, and inside I made a tiny version that clips in here, and ta-da! So I'll show you what I did there. And then there's the little, my Wii is repainted my nails. It's just a little card that sticks in there. So there is a big version and then the little version, and it's the same girl, you see. So, and the same colors. So that was kind of the idea there. And then inside, I just put, a little button and some, the stuff we do. And I liked this card, so I thought the colors, I did a background piece there. That's just a card. That's a vintage magazine. Which, yeah, I used some of it in another project. And so that's that card. And then we'll put the little one in, and just slides up underneath our doop, bloop. So that was a good one to enter. So super glad that they liked it. That's very encouraging because, I'd never really done anything like this. So I'm finding more ideas and things in the community now. So there is that one. So that one won a second place ribbon. Okay, here's the ornament. We got a third place on our other little ornament. As you can see, it's just a little different. They're kind of similar. But this one, I have the little crochet mushroom that I sewed some little seed beads on. And again, it's on a wooden ring. And then I used, I'm just using up my yarn. So that was some fuzzy yarn that I turned into a funky curly bow. And they liked it enough. They gave it a third place. So not bad. Okay. And then this one is so cute. This was one I had made for Wee's room. I was using up yarn. And I had, this is an old vintage picture frame. One of those metal picture frames. Do you see it in there? And, you know, what are you going to do with those? And this is what I did. So I wrapped it with just yarn I was using up in my stash. And then I did the weaving. And then on the front panel, I did all of this work. And so I weaved through and I made it look like an ocean. And then I put little fish buttons and buttons that look like bubbles. Some fun beads going through. And there was a bracelet that was broken that we clumped together to make. This is a little, there's a little seashell down there. So I just made this kind of poofy bump. And then over here, we made a little clam. So there he is with his little pearl inside. And that was how I made that one. And this one got second place. So they must have liked it. So fun. That was neat. And then here's the item my mother won a first place with. So there's her first place ribbon. And it was a vest. I'll show you the front here. Let me see. I'll get that out of the way so you can see it. Here's the front. And she did all of this little work to it. And she also has not worn it yet. I said, let me have that one before you wear it. So she's been waiting to get it back. She's even gone on vacation since. So she's probably like, she asked me, she got my stuff back yet? But here is the back. And my mom quilts. So these are part of her quilts, quilting pieces. And then there are little lace and trims and things that she did on this one. Very pretty, Mom. I like it. So there she got a first place ribbon. Okay. Now, wait. I'm going to wait on that one. I will wait on that one. Hold on. I thought I had... Maybe not. What am I missing? I feel like I'm missing something. Okay, well, I'll figure it out in a minute. Oh, I know what it is. Okay, never mind. I know what it is. Okay. So I entered my, some of you may have seen me share this before. This is my little fairy box I made for Boo. And I used, you know, I got this at the Dollar General for like $1 or $2. I can't remember if they were 50% off or 90% off, but they were very cheap that day. So I bought a few boxes. And I just, you know, decorated it. I crocheted the little fairy in there. And she's got little wings and braids and her eyelashes and her lips. She looks silly, but I liked her. And then the leaves for the flowers. And these are little bits I added. There's a little butterfly. And then this was a magazine in the background. Just an old, page out of a magazine. There's a little doily. I added some moss from the yard and some vintage trims. Paper flowers. Another one of my crochet mushrooms. A little mushroom button. I made the grass with yarn. So I just made long loops and then I trimmed all the loops to make these grass. And there's another little bunny, which was me practicing. That bunny, the little micro bunny, came after me practicing the big bunnies. So I had made a few bunnies and then I was like, ooh, I got that yarn. I wonder if I can make a tiny bunny. And I did. And I stuck it in there. And there's another little butterfly. And I got some sticks out of my yard and made the fence. Added some more of my crochet vines and my little crochet flowers. And there she is, just chilling out. Well, they liked this one a lot, so they gave me a honorable mention. Isn't that fun? That's a pretty color. So, yeah, they must have liked it. They're like, oh, that one is cute. So, there's that one. Okay, let me put this here. And next, okay, I do know what's going on. Okay, then I wanted to challenge I've never made a hat. And this was my first attempt at a hat. And I picked a really crappy yarn that you cannot rewind. In other words, you don't frog this yarn. It's fuzzy and frogging is nearly impossible. It's not that you can't, but trust me, if you know, you know. So wanted to use that as my skill level, just to show that I could create a hat with yarn that I cannot make a mistake with. And can I pull it off? And I think I did. So here is the top. I made a little beret. And then here is the bottom, the inside here. And there's the beret. It looks really pretty. I thought my lines were clean and neat. And they must have liked it too, because they gave me a second place. I did get, one of the comments was a choice of yarn on a couple of my items. Like I had mentioned earlier on the bookmark, there was another item. They didn't particularly care for the choice of yarn color, they said. And I believe the hat was also mentioned. They didn't particularly like the yarn. But that's okay, because my point was, I still think it's pretty. And maybe it wasn't this one, but I feel like it was. It was. But I didn't make it to wear. I made it to challenge. So just wanted to see if I could do a really good job and make something that would be, hard to make a mistake and be missed, with a very difficult yarn. So there we go. It's pretty. That's pretty. So we got second place. And then I had a couple other doilies that I entered that also took second place. This one here, this was one of my blocking issues. You can kind of see, because it's been loosened now. It's slowly kind of wiggled. And so they definitely noted that. That's no big deal. We'll fix that next year. But that was the pattern I picked. And I think this one might have been another one that had a color. They didn't like this yarn. It took away from the design. They would have liked to have seen it in a solid color as well, because they felt like the design just disappeared. So I really like the feedback. That helps me, because, up until now, I've just been making stuff, using up my stuff. I don't believe last year I got any feedback reports. So this year I got the feedback reports, and that helps me, because what I'll do is I'll change what I'm making next year. I'm going to be like an expert. That'll be my third year entering. I'm going to have it down. And so I'll know better, what I'm doing. And I'll pick yarns, even if it's not necessarily, I'm just picking stuff in my stash. You know what I mean? I'm just making things. But now I'll think a little bit more. Okay, and then I made this pattern. It's very pretty. It is a fan. I don't know if you can see it. And again, see, it's kind of wiggly. And I did block it, but it sat, and then it's been handled. So I'll have to do a little bit better. What I might do for their projects for the fair is stiffen block them, so you don't have to worry about that. So we're learning, but I think this pattern is so pretty. I've been eyeing it for a really long time, and I thought the fair was a great place for me to give it a go. So it's just a fan. Isn't that pretty? And you don't even have to add this part, so you could essentially just make that, but pretty. Or ultimately, you can make any circular crochet doily into a fan if you just make it a half circle, but finish this half and then add a handle. So that was cool. And that was the second place. Okay. Then I got third place with this one. Actually, I've had this one a minute. It has been hanging in my room, but I thought it was really pretty for a wall hanger. And so I picked that one to send, and it got a third place. So not bad. It's very pretty. It's actually the beginning center of an Afghan, a crochet along with me, a cowl crochet along. And I did it in thread form, and I made a few of them, and I've glued some on my chair. If you have seen any of the videos of my chair, I need to do an update on my chair, because I did finally get my lace done at the bottom, and I've added a few more pieces. I just haven't stopped to do that. So that one won third place, but that was that one. And my back's okay. My back's very clean. Okay. Oops. All right, only a couple more items, so hang on with me. For this one, I won a third place ribbon for this beautiful rug I made. I made this for my craft room, and the fair was coming up, and I thought I'm going to enter it before I put it on my floor. So I didn't put it on the floor yet. But this is the pattern. As you can see, it's the same yarn that was used with the dress. And so I've been using up yarn. And a great way to use up yarn is to make giant doilies you can put on the floor. And I do that often. So this one I entered. It's very pretty. I know my purple ladies will love it. And I took third place. Not bad. Okay. Now, last year I won a blue ribbon, a purple ribbon, and a yellow ribbon all on one. I won a best in show for my micro doily last year. Well, this year I did not win a best in show, but I did still get a purple medallion, which is excellent. And in fact, this year I got 2 of them. So last year I only got the one, but that one also won best in show. This year I got 2 purple medallions, but I did not win a best in show. That's okay. Let me show you what I got this year. So I entered another micro doily, and these ribbons, I'm just going to take them off at this point now. I just want to make sure I don't separate them because I've been hanging them up in my house with the ribbons. So, you know, you can see that it won. I don't know. I can remember. So this is the micro doily. And again, you can see that it started to wiggle because as it's been touched, my blocking is disappearing. So next year I will definitely, because I might have won had it not been doing this. I don't know that, but that could have been what knocked me out. I'll stiffen them, which I don't typically do to my doilies, but for these I will. For the fair I will start doing that. But here it is. Anyway, I've done this in macro form, and it is one of my all-time favorite patterns. I love the way it works up. It's so clean. You really don't have to block it. I mean, as you can see, it lays pretty flat even without any blocking. It's very nice of a pattern. This is my micro, so I did this with thread, and it's very pretty. And drapey. I mean, I like it like that. That's why I don't typically tend to stiffen them. But very pretty. She came out very pretty. And she won a first place and a purple for Award of Excellence. So that was one of their favorites. And but it's not the best in show though. What they do is with the purple ribbons, they go around and then they decide from the purple ribbons which one they're going to assign as their all-time favorite. So this one was definitely liked. And Polly, if you're watching, you're going to love this because guess what else won a purple ribbon? my Strawbeary Bliss project. And I was also told that they loved this little album and said, make more. That was what was repeated back to me. The judges loved this. And it, in fact, did win another purple ribbon. Look at that. So for the paper crafts, I was a favorite. And so a first place ribbon. And if you know, this was one we just recently did. It was a collaboration with Polly over at Polly's Pretties Coloring and more. And we just had prompts every day. Oh no, my card is missing here. Oh no. There was a card here that is no longer there. Oh no, was it a casualty or is it hiding inside somewhere? But each day we did a prompt there, and then the page shows the prompts. And so I'm going to go through it just to see if the card has been hidden somewhere else in there. Little curtains. Here's another card. I almost didn't enter it because it's not the best, you know. And at the same time, you know, what's the point? So we did. There we go. And I know these two cards belong here, and they also have the information. And there's our little gnome card. Cute. It is a cute little journal, isn't it? It's so cute. There's our card there. There's our cards there. Oh no. Yeah, that one does not come off. I don't see it. I will ask my friend who picked it up for me if it might have fallen out in the bag or something. Oh, wait. I think we found it. There it is. Yes, there it is. Strawbery Bliss, hosted by Polly's Pretties. And there's the information. So they liked it. Isn't that fun? And they clearly played with it. Yes, because the cards are moved. That is so fabulous. There it is. Word, summer, and moon. There we go. And the end of the book. So fabulous. So this one got a first place. And it got a purple. And that makes 2 this year. How exciting. So this is my second year entering things into our state fair. It's a few hours away. So I have a friend who's offered and takes the stuff up for me. We had planned on going this year to the fair for the craft part, but I just wasn't able to do that this year. Hopefully next year we'll be able to do that. But I appreciate her taking these things for me and then bringing them back. She also participates. She's the one that's got me doing it in the first place. And next year, I feel like at this point, you know, last year I did it. It was kind of a last minute thing. I didn't really know. I threw a couple things in there. And this year, you know, I really didn't have it together. But I still kind of thought, okay, I'm going to do some specific things. And I tried to, you know, gather up. But next year, I feel like at this point, I've had such a positive experience doing it. And I enjoy it. That I'm going to the floor, you know, pedal to the metal, as they say it. And so next year I'll be much better prepared. And her and I were talking about that too. She does it every year too. And she's very organized, but she just, was saying, you know, I want to make it like a thing, you know. And so we're going to do that. If you've never, I'm going to get my mom involved now that my mom's gotten her toes wet. And we'll have a family. Boo's almost old enough to start entering things. And so we'll make the fair like a family thing. And that's what she does with her girls. So that's kind of cool. But I want to encourage anybody, if you've never entered anything in a state fair, if you didn't even know that these fairs exist, might I encourage you to give it a go, because they do not grade you based off of other people, and they have different, you're based on your own work. So it's kind of like gymnastics and stuff. You know, every gymnast or every doily is graded on its own numbers, not in comparison to someone else. And then those numbers determine these extra ribbons. So if you score a high score, you get a ribbon. It doesn't matter. Everyone could win a ribbon. It's not like that. So it's kind of encouraging to do it and see that somebody liked your stuff. And, you know, somebody who does this every year, some little old lady that sits every year and looks forward to going to the fair and checking out she enjoys what she's doing. The judges like judging. You know, we might be judges one day. We might be asked. That's the kind of, you know, so thinking of it like that way, it's a fun way to share. And they have categories. So if you know, like this, I'm in a beginner here. So I entered this as a beginner. If I'd entered this book as an expert, I probably wouldn't have scored as high. In my crochet, I'm going in at intermediate this year, whereas last year I did it as a beginner just because I'd never entered before. This year I've come in as an intermediate. Next year, you know, I'll probably try to slip in as an intermediate again. But at some point, you know, I'm going to have to say I'm an expert. So I want you, I want you to judge me on a very high standard. You know, I want you to really. So I think that's kind of a fun way to challenge ourselves too as crafters. So I've shared 30 minutes of my stuff. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out and seeing what I won at the fair. Some ideas of things that you could also consider entering. And let me know if you do. Tag me. I think it's fun. And if anybody else did fair, tag me so I can see what you did. All right. Bye, everybody.